morning and welcome to the Threatt Report. I'm Leon Threatt and I'm pleased and delighted to be able to encourage you on this program today, the Threatt Report. And we try to come to you every week with encouraging, insightful perspectives on life, on family, on faith, and certainly what's going on in our nation. I want to take a little detour today, and instead of talking about news matters, I want to talk to you about storms. About how to move through storms of life. You know, the August through November season is considered hurricane season here in America. Hurricane season. These storms come from the far east through the Atlantic, and they come through the Gulf Coast area and through the Caribbean, and they create devastation. We've had, in the last month or so, we've had Harvey, we've had Irma, we've had Maria, and we've had Nate. All of these storms have created difficulties for many. And so I want to talk to you about wisdom for progressing through the storms. You know, life has storms. You know, as much as we like to think that it doesn't, there are storms. There are storms in finances, storms in marriage, relationships. There are storms in your own health. There are storms that come against your purpose, your destiny. And the question is, how do I move through and progress through those storms so that the storms doesn't handicap, that they'll not impede the progress that you were destined to make in life. And so I want to give you 7 things real quickly that I've learned that I believe helps me move through the storms of life. You know, if you're not in a storm, stand by, one's coming. I just find that to be true. And so the first principle is know that storms do come to us all. For every one of us, storms do come. Think it not strange when you are faced with difficulties, trials, or tests, because it's a part of the life journey. So the question is, will there be a storm? No, the question is, how do I address the storms when they do come? Because they will come. So number 1, know that storms do come, and you need to know how to deal with them. Secondly, prepare for the storm before it arrives. You know, the worst time to buy flood insurance is when it's raining. The time to buy fire insurance is not when the house is on fire. We need to understand that preparation is never wasted time. Prepare ahead of time. You know, the level and quality of our preparation determines the effectiveness of our processing through the storms. Anything you do before the storm minimizes the impact of that storm on your life and on your property. And I'm talking about not only on your personal life, your spiritual life, but also in natural things. We can learn a lot from natural preparation. You know, before a hurricane, when they get the word that a hurricane is coming through, whether it's the Caribbeans or Florida or Houston, Texas, you know, ahead of time there are warnings to prepare. And then many property owners begin to board up their properties, begin to stock up food, they begin to gather the resources to be able to survive and perhaps even thrive out of the storm. So preparation is essential in order to effectively come through a storm, whether it's your finances, your marriage, or your business, or your career. Preparation is critical. Number 3, discover your hiding place before the storm. You know, I think this is one of those ones that just get my attention. You know, I think it's so important that we know where to go before the storm arrives. You know, even the natural, they have hurricane shelters, whether it's a school or whether it's a bunker of some sort. When there is a storm pursuing or coming down on you, people are then asked to go to a shelter. And you know, for me, the shelter has been my personal relationship with Jesus Christ. The storms of life, whether it's financial or whether it's business, whether it's your career, for me, the place to run before the storm, or the place to run even in the midst of a storm, is to the Lord himself. There's a powerful scripture that I want to read to you. It comes from Psalms 32, verse 7. It says, "You are my hiding place. You shall preserve me from trouble. You shall compass me about with songs of deliverance." The Lord is the hiding place. It does matter where you run to in the midst of a storm. Not every place is a safe shelter. Now you need to hear that. Your business may not be your safe shelter. Your finances may not be your safe shelter. But the Lord is a safe place to run to. He is the hiding place. I have found him to be the hiding place in the midst of a storm. Number 4, refuse to fear. When facing a storm, when a storm is bearing down on your life, on your family, on your future, refuse to fear. Now, why is that so important? Because when fear comes, creativity, ingenuity, creative ideas all dissipate. You know, when fear handicaps us, and therefore in the midst of a storm, we must work not to be gripped by fear. Psalms 23, I know the Psalms 23, verse 4. When you walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You see, when you're going through a storm, purpose not to fear. I know the tendency is to be gripped by fear, but fear handicaps. And fear impedes our progress through the storm. And so, purpose not to fear. So number 1, we said no, that storms do come. Secondly, we said prepare before the storm. Thirdly, we said discover your hiding place. And number 4, we said refuse to fear. Number 5, in the midst of a storm, relationships and partnerships do matter. In other words, when storms come, there needs to be a unifying, a partnership of community, of family, of our neighborhood coming together, aiding one another in the preparation, through the storm, and then after the storm. Relationships do matter. And so it is even when you're going through a personal storm. Consolidating your information and your resources is extremely important. In other words, when you're going through a storm, have the right people in your life that can bring encouragement, to bring direction, bring perspective to the storm issues of your life, whether it's your marriage. You know, if you're in a storm in your marriage today, the reason why I mentioned that, I'm thinking about someone personally that's close to my family, and they're going through a marital storm. And my heart is heavy, and I want to bring encouragement, I want to bring support, I want to aid them through the storm of their marital relationship. So when you're going through a storm, build around you, have around you good, healthy relationships that can encourage you and advise you and aid you through the storm season. Number 6, when going through a storm, the wisdom is progress through the storm. Don't stay in the storm. You know, storms of life are often shortened by the progress we make in it. In other words, when you're in a storm, keep moving. I like to say it like that. Listen, when you feel like you're going through hell, keep moving through it. Don't sit down and camp at a difficult place. When you're going through a storm, keep moving through the storm. Refuse to get stuck. And one of the principles of wisdom when going through a storm is learn the lessons needed while you're there. If you're in a storm, learn from it so that it's not an absolute waste of time, energy, and resources. In other words, don't waste the ashes of a difficult season. Learn from the storm so perhaps you can know how to avoid the storm or a storm in the future, or perhaps you can bring aid and assistance to others, which is the 7th point. When going through a storm, when the wisdom for handling the storms of life is once you come through the storm, reach back and help others through their storm. In other words, you know, you should learn something from it. And when you learn something, help help people get through their storm. Reach back to a family member, a friend, a neighbor, a co-worker, and encourage them through their storm. Wisdom should be learned from every difficult season. And when you learn something, help someone through their storm. Well, we've covered 7 principles of wisdom when facing a storm and how to get through the storm. I encourage you to go to our website, leonthreatt.com. You want to hear more about this information. Hopefully I'll be able to put this in writing and set it before you. If you'd like to email me, feel free, do so. The Threatt Report at gmail.com. I'm here, I'm available. I want to be an encouragement in your life, and I want to encourage you, keep moving through the storms, no matter what they might look like. God bless you. Have a wonderful day in the Lord.